John Henson, what a thrill! I get to ask you questions this time. Back in your TV Guide channel days, you were usually nailing me.
I'm a little worried.
I'm not only going to nail you.
The shoe was on the other foot. Back when I had 2/3 of a television show on the TV Guide channel, I got to grill you. Now you're grilling me.
And I'm not just going to nail you. This is going to be a crucifixion. So beware. You are warned. All right, Wipeout. I love the whole concept of Wipeout being in the Emmy race for Best Reality Competition Show. Now, let me tell you who your competition is. You're up against Top Chef, Survivor, Project Runway, I Want to Work for Diddy. I survived. I know. Diddy could take you down if you beat him, you know. I survived a Japanese game show, Deal or No Deal. And, of course, Amazing Race always wins this race. You're up against American Idol. So what's your diabolical plan to win this?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to invite all the hosts over to my place, get them all liquored up, and then take them to the Wipeout course and hope that natural selection leaves us as the only people left to win.
I think that's the logical extension of this. Next year, I think you should submit to the Emmys Board of Governors a plan to turn this race into a wipeout. So,
absolutely. I think the motivator would make a mockery out of a man like Phil Kogan.
So what would be on that obstacle course? Plank to the face, rapid rapids?
We'd need some breakaway planks. We would need a sucker punch wall. Of course, I got to have the big balls, just if only to see how Ryan Seacrest handles that. and you know, overall, I think we got to wrap it up with the human catapult. I can't imagine anything better than putting Diddy in a human catapult and pulling it.
How would you survive this Wipeout contest as a contestant?
Well, first of all, this interview would be with the heir to my fortune, which would be about $75. Someone that I have left that to, because I never would survive the course.
But you know how to cheat, right? You've been around the course long enough. There got to be little shortcut ways, sneaky ways, right?
We'll clean it up in post. And at Cedar Sinai.
Okay. What are some of the craziest stunts you've done on this show in terms of the actual obstacles these contestants have had? What are the craziest ones?
Well, this year we've added a new wrinkle to the big balls with the motivator, a 2-ton pendulum that swings down behind you if you hesitate for too long. On last night's episode, there was a woman named Vonti McCrae who, let's just say, the good Lord has been generous with Vonti. And when the motivator came down and hit her from behind, the amount of mud, Tom, that came out of the front of her unitard, it was as if her cleavage had formed a flume ride, and she gave herself like microdermabrasion. It was like she was sandbagging against a flood. That's one of my favorites this year. The other would have to be the human catapult. I don't know if you own a human catapult. It's a phenomenal investment. Get one, use it liberally. My only caution would be you really want to make sure you assemble it properly. This is not like an IKEA piece of furniture. You don't want pieces left over. You really need to take your time to make sure you fit that piece into sub-slot A, because otherwise somebody's going to end up in the parking lot. Shouldn't
this show of yours be in the anti-Emmy race in a way? Think about the competition you're up against, shows like Dancing with the Stars or American Idol, where achievement and doing your best and dignity all matter, when the opposite of that is what makes Wipeout so great. There's no dignity involved here.
No, if there were a debacle category, we would win in a landslide. Don't you think? I really feel if there were a cultural rubbernecking category, then we would win.
Let's go back to your friend Ryan Seacrest. You're an alum of E, of course. Wouldn't it be great if you and Ryan were in the same race? How do you think Ryan would take that?
I think Ryan would say, look, you're adorable for being in the race with me. I can buy you.
Ryan lost last year. Of course, he lost to Jeff Probst, so he's the one you have to vote off the Emmy Island. So I think it's all about get Jeff. I'm talking now about that host category, not the program.
And you know, Jeff is a dear friend of mine. I absolutely love me some Jeff Probst, and I think it's about high time that guy was rewarded with an Emmy, because I think personally, now I may have a skewed viewpoint, but I think Amazing Race and Phil have tended to win because of the size and spectacle of that production, whereas I feel personally, as a host, that Jeff is much more integrally involved in his program. His role in the show evolves and is much more dynamic. Phil does a wonderful job, but his role in the show tends to stay the same from show to show to season, whereas Jeff has to adapt to the personalities, and he is almost like an on-set shrink, and I think he does that incredibly well. He's a great friend, and I honestly feel like I've learned about making myself a better host from watching him.
You have co-hosts, so you don't want to share the glory on Emmy night if you were to win now. So do you have to take them out when we're not watching?
I got to be honest, if we win, I might drop Jill Wagner like a dirty shirt. Just hit her real quick, grab the Emmy, run home, and tell everybody I got 2. You know what I mean? John Anderson is a lot bigger than I am, but he wears glasses. So, I might take the butt of the Emmy and just give him a shot in the face and run home with 3 of them and tell him it was a clean sweep.
I have a bone to pick with you, by the way. I would be fitting into my summer beach clothes right now if it wasn't for Wipeout. I'm in New York now. The gym I belong to at 80th and Broadway, the New York Sports Club, I think has Wipeout on a continuous loop. And every time I go up there right after the work hour, there's this dumb lug on the elliptical next to me going, his guffaws are so loud and annoying I have to leave the gym. So this is all your fault. Or it's New York Sports Club's fault for having that Wipeout on the continuous loop. But
I have to be honest with you. I was at the gym yesterday when Wipeout began to air, and I had a little pang of anxiety because they started changing the channel, and I went, oh, please don't let them put Wipeout on, because I didn't want everybody to start going, hey. Hey. The other thing about it is Wipeout could be inspirational in a gym because, as you know, we're not necessarily dealing with all the finest tuned athletes. So seeing some of those people competing might encourage you to run that extra mile.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I just remembered something. When you were on, was it when you were on Talk Soup that it got nominated? It was the E! Channel's first Emmy nomination, right? Talk Soup was. Were you in the
Talk Soup actually won an Emmy the year I arrived, but that was the episode submitted was Greg Kinnear's episode, and he was lucky enough to take home that much-deserved Emmy. I was a huge fan of Greg's and a huge fan of Talk Soup before I came to the show. I think when I was there, we might have had a total of 3 or 4 Emmy nominations. I think a couple for show and a couple for writing, and that was a tremendous honor. I mean, that was very exciting, your first television show to be in that company. I remember this was, of course, back in the days where they were still doing Cable Ace Awards, and you show up at some of these award shows, and it was very thrilling. Although you want to talk about a bad show business memory. The year that I was sure we were going to win an Emmy for Talk Soup, we lost the writing Emmy to Jeopardy!
Oh, wow.
Jeopardy!
That hurts.
That's not writing, that's research. You can't take a fact, put it in the form of a question, and say that's writing.
Yeah. I'd demand a recount if I were you.
Yeah. Or at least I'll sulk about it for the rest of my career.
So what would you do if you won an Emmy? What would your acceptance speech be? Would you give us a Wipeout at the podium? I mean, you've had to have scripted this in your mind, right?
Yeah, I would probably do a little bit of the Roberto Benigni. I would go Curious George on the audience and just start climbing over the chairs. I might do a Bruno thing, a Sacha Baron's Bruno, where I just descend from the ceiling on a wire in hot pants and little else and accept the Emmy that way. I can tell you one thing. It wouldn't be quick, and it wouldn't be a straight answer. It would be, I would wait until I was played off.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, listen, a guy like me, odds are I'm never going to be on that stage again, so you got to take your one shining moment, as it were.
Hey, Emmy voting's still going on, so a lot of Emmy voters will be watching this webcam, and you may sway just enough, to get into this race and make this dream come true. Parting words, now that you've got the Emmy voters watching you, what do you want to say to them?
I will say this. Vote early, vote often. And from John Anderson, Jill Wagner, and myself, we'd just like to say good night and big balls.
May the Emmy be with you.
May the Emmy be with me. Thank you very much, Tom. It was a pleasure. Nice to see you again.